Hi friends, the next topic in our series of lectures from Economic Survey 2021 is the relation between growth and debt. So, does growth lead to debt sustainability? In this chapter, the Economic Survey has clearly discussed what is the relation between debt and growth. Because in this financial year, because of coronavirus pandemic, our tax revenue has come down and our even non-tax revenue like disinvestment income has also reduced. So in this time, you need to spend more and more. And if you want to spend more and more, you need to go for a debt. But does really this debt is good for the economy or bad for the economy? So if there is a growth, does really that growth leads to higher amount of debt, or does really that growth leads to lower amount of debt if you really make a debt in order to give some sort of push to the growth? So if you want to have a growth, you need to go for a debt. And if you really do the debt, does it really improves the growth, or that growth really reduce the debt? This is the dichotomy. So suppose if there is a growth, what about the debt? Whether the debt will come down or whether the debt will go up. Suppose if the debt increases, does it really improves the growth automatically? So these are the questions that we will discuss in this. So what is the relation between the growth and debt? Because we need to go for a debt in order to have a growth. And without growth, can you sustain the debt? And if really the debt increases, what about its impact on growth? So these are the things that you will discuss in this chapter. And here, first of all, when we say debt, immediately lot of things coming into our mind. That is the future aspects of the debt. Okay, you need a requirement today and you will go for a debt, but it has its own implication in future. So what are those implications in future? One is about the stable currency. So what might be your currency value in future if you go for a debt, because you need to go on repaying it. Second one is the implication of future growth. Debt sustainability, whether you can maintain that debt or not, whether it is sustained or it really overburden for you. Next one is sovereign rating. Again, this is a very important thing, because if your debt go on increasing and your fiscal deficit is increases, definitely your sovereign rating might come down. And the another important thing is the possible vulnerabilities on external sector. You might know what will happen. Again, you can link it with the currency and your exports, imports, everything, and your prospects at the international financial institution. So the possible vulnerabilities at the external sector, which includes the stable currency, and also the implication on future growth and debt sustainability and sovereign rating. So these are the things that immediately comes into your mind the moment when you go for the debt. So what can we do in order to revive the growth if these are the constraints that upon you in order to reduce your debt? Without debt, you cannot grow, because you need some money, you need some sort of incentive at this stage to revive the growth. But if you go for the debt, these are the constraints that are upon you. So this is the conflict that you are going to face before you go for any debt in any economy, that too especially in the kind of such an economic crisis. But there are some things you need to understand in the economy. When economy is actually performs in cycle wise, I think you are aware about these cycles. But as a responsible government, in order to allow its economy to run in an effective manner, the government should always focus on counter cyclical measures. It is the duty of the government. Government is duty bound to do that. What is that counter cyclical measures? Suppose if economy is performing so well and you cannot allow this economy to go beyond certain levels, because if it allows to, if it start crossing the levels then it has its own impacts. So certainly you need to reduce, because it has its own problem with the inflation. Suppose if there is a lot of amount of money, lot of growth, and if the money circulation is increasing over a period of time, it leads to higher inflationary condition. Again, it has its own effects on both exports and imports. So you need to be counter cyclical. And suppose when the economy is in this downward path, then immediately you have to take the counter cyclical measures so that you will bring this economy to the growth trajectory. And if you don't take counter cyclical measures, your economy will come to a standstill. Finally, it will become a failed economy. So the point is, you need to always take a counter cyclical measures, and at the same time, in this coronavirus pandemic time also, when your economy is start declining, you are duty bound to take a counter cyclical measures. And in economic survey, the analogy was given by taking two examples. You can understand it clearly, and that is, they have taken the pro-cyclical policy and counter-cyclical policy, both in case of recession and expansion. Suppose if you are in recession, and if you take the pro-cyclical policy, suppose in recession means, what is the pro-cyclical policy? In recession, the governmental expenditure is very less, and also government try to collect more and more taxes. That leads to the recession actually. There is no expansionary policy. And in that case, if you take the pro-cyclic policy, pro-cyclic means you wanted to continue the same cycle. That means you want to continue the cycle to continue for a much more downward trend. That means for that, what you need to do, you need to again increase the taxes, you need to again reduce the much more expenditure by the government. So if you are in a recession, and if at all you take a pro-cyclic policy, that means to further deepen the crisis, and if you reduce the government expenditure and if you increase the tax, you will left with much more worse condition. And suppose if you are in an expansionary trajectory, and if you will take a pro-cyclic measure, expansionary trajectory means the government spending is very high and the taxes are low, and if you want to allow that upward trajectory to continue, that means if you take the pro-cyclic measure, then you will left with the amplifying of expansion, and that leads to again the problem, and again it leads to higher level of inflation. That means when economy is performing well, and when the government expenditure is very high, when taxes are low, and if you increase much more expenditure of the government, and if you reduce the much more level of the taxes, then definitely it creates a lot of problem on the expansion of the economy. Then what you must take? You must always be counter cyclical. Suppose now you see the second horizontal line, you can understand. Suppose if you are in a recession, and if you take the counter cyclic policy means at that time you need to spend more and more. So government expenditure must be increases, and the tax amount has to come down. And when the tax amount has come down and the government spending is increases, then you will come to a normal growth trajectory. And if you are in the expansionary mode, then you have to go for a counter cyclic policy. That means you need to counter that cycle, and for that you need to reduce the government expenditure and increase the taxes on people. That will makes you to stabilize the economic performance. So that means you need to take a counter cyclical measures, even though you have the apprehension of these 5 items, but you are duty bound to go for a counter cyclical measures in order to make your economy efficient and in order to allow your economy to grow at the sustainable level. So that itself is necessitated you to go for the debt. Suppose the debt is inevitable. And if the debt is inevitable, there is an apprehension in our mind according to the traditional economics, like suppose the higher level of public debt will leads to higher amount of taxes, because government has to increase the taxes. So if the higher amount of taxes increase leads to the reduction in both wealth and as well as consumption. So if the taxes are very high, both direct and indirect, then your wealth and consumption will reduce. And if your wealth and consumption reduces, then automatically the taxes include leads to wealth and consumption reduction and also reduction in savings. And if the reduction in savings leads to the reduction in demand, and the reduction in demand leads to reduction in growth. This is what our traditional idea. So if the debt increases, the taxes will be high, and once the taxes will be high, then the wealth and consumption levels are low, and as well as savings are low. That means the demand in the economy is low, and once the demand in the economy is low means the growth is also low. Then does it really, the debt will the debt will allow you to sustain the growth? No. Then how can you go for the debt? Then how can you suggest that you must go for a debt? Yes, debt is always promotes a growth, but if you satisfy some condition, and though that condition is interest rate, growth rate differential. So this is the concept used in economic survey. And you may get the question, if IRDG is in negative, what is the thing, and if IRDG is positive, what are the things? So that you will get the questions on that, and you must be very careful about this. So the growth will lead a sustainable debt if you have a good IRGD value, or the debt leads to higher amount of growth if you have this a favorable IRGD value. So what is this IRGD? IRGD means it is the difference between interest rate, that's what you are paying for your loans, and the level of growth rate that your economy is maintaining. It is the difference between the interest rate which you are paying for your loans and also the level of economic growth that you are maintaining in the economy. Okay, I will give you an example. Suppose it is positive. When it is positive, if your interest rates are very high compared to the growth rate, it is positive. And it is negative when your growth rate of economy is very high compared to the interest rate which you are paying. And in this, the negative thing is very good for any economy. And generally, most of the economies are maintaining a negative thing. India is also maintaining a negative thing. And why India is maintaining a negative thing? Because in developed countries, actually the interest rate itself are so low. Just assume interest rate is 1%. Suppose even if the economy maintains a 2% of growth rate, because developed economies, they don't maintain higher amount of growth rate because they have reached to such a saturation level. So that means you are again negative. But whereas in case of India, though our interest rates are to some extent high, just assume it is 4%, but our growth rate is very high, like 7%, and again we are left with -3. So that means both developed countries and developing countries are maintaining a negative IRGD value, but the reasons are different. The reason for the developed thing is they are maintaining low interest rate, but the reason for the India is we are maintaining higher amount of growth. And suppose if you maintain negative interest rate, what is the positive thing that you will get with this debt? Now I am going to give an analogy. The same example was given in economic survey, but with changed figures. You can see there. Suppose my GDP is, just assume it is 100, and I have taken a debt of 10 rupees. Now suppose if my growth rate is 7%, just assume for convenience, just take, if my growth rate is 10% and if my interest rate is just 5%. This is growth rate and this is interest rate. I am in negative IRGD. Now just say after 1 year, my GDP will become 110, because 100 plus 10% of growth, I will become 110. After 1 year, my 10 plus 5, it has become 15. That means the net value here, it is only 90. That means 100 rupees GDP, but 10 rupees whatever the thing. Now you need to remove this 15. That means 5, 95. So we are add up with 5. We are add up with net value here it is 90, but here the net value is 95. Again what you will do is, you will take 10 rupees debt again. 10 rupees debt. You again take 10 rupees. So what is the total value? Now it has become 115. And if you go on do it for next year, again do it for next year, again do it for next year, your debt will be sustainable. So your debt Earlier it was 10 rupees and your GDP is 100. Because of higher amount of growth rate and lower amount of interest rate, you are end up with again 115 and you are only 110 here. That is the thing that you need to understand. So as long as if your growth rate is high and interest rate is low, the debt is sustainable. That is the reason why the economic survey is advocating or advising the government to go for the higher amount of debt, because you have such a growth perspectives. This higher amount of growth will always makes your debt as sustainable one. That means your debt value will come down at certain point of time. So as long as you are maintaining a higher amount of growth rate, you will reduce the debt. But the opposite cannot be happen until and unless you have a favorable thing. That I cannot suggest like going for a debt, complete debt, the debt automatically makes you for a growth. No. Debt cannot make you automatically to a growth level, but a positive growth condition will make your debt sustainable. That means whatever the advice is, go for a higher debt because you have a growth prospect, and that will reduce your debt and that will make your debt as sustainable one. So this is something that we can draw out of the economic survey. Okay, so but again there are some more apprehensions are there with this high amount of debt, and economic survey want to clarify those things. And here I will come one by one and I will give an explanation what was really the apprehension and what was the advice or the solution given by the economic survey with high amount of debt. See, the first one is how your debt is going to affect your external debt and as well as the condition of forex. This is the first one. If you take the debt, whenever you are repaying, you need definitely forex reserves if it is a foreign debt. So how you are going to maintain your forex reserves? And how you are going to maintain, because forex reserves is automatically depends on your currency value. But the economic survey is clearly mentioned about our external debt is very less compared to the domestic debt. Then they have given the figure, our external debt is only 2.7% of the GDP, and that too in the central government liability it is only 5.9% of central government liability. So that means our external debt is low, so low, and that too we have the comfortable level of forex reserves. And with this comfortable level of forex reserves, that too with a less amount of the external debt, we can make it so comfortable. So don't worry about that factor, because our domestic debt is very high compared to the external debt. Okay, so first thing they have removed. Second one is, it is about crowding effect on private investment. What does it mean? The thing is, suppose if the government is spending so much amount of money by taking it as a debt, from where it will take? It will take from the public by issuing the bonds and other things. And when people start saving in only governmental instruments, and where is the money in the economy so that the private people can also invest? So the resource constraint will happen to the private people if the government will go for the higher debt. If the government go for the higher debt, then private people cannot find the enough amount of money, so the private investment will come down. So that is also one problem that you are going to face with this higher amount of debt. But economic survey has given a clarification on this also. In case of India, the increased spending by the government source, either it is through direct handouts or it is through the investment, it will increase the demand in the economy. Again, this increasing demand may induce the private sector to increase their investment in a new machinery or in new aspect or in new businesses. See, the private people needs demand. Suppose if the private people finds that there is a demand to this product, definitely they can invest in that institute, or they can invest in that particular sector by mobilizing the resources from anywhere. They have lot of option. They have plenty of options. But the point here is you must make sure that there is an enough demand in the economy, and through this spending, by creating some sort of employment, we are able to increase the demand, and this demand will stimulate or will motivate the private sector to invest in new aspect. So don't worry about that also. Nothing will happen to that crowding effect, and if you able to show that there is an enough demand, definitely every problem will sort out. Private people will come from somewhere and they will invest. This is the second apprehension. Third one is, does this spending is effective in a crisis time? So no one want to purchase, no one want to come out, no one want to move anywhere, and everyone want to simply sit and are waiting for the future, what is going to happen. And at this time, if you spend, does it really so effective? So for this, economic survey has given a comparison like higher fiscal multiplier during economic slowdown. So that means, what is their idea is, if economy is in a slowdown condition, whatever the money that you are spending, that every rupee has its own higher multiplier effect compared to the normal times. That means in a slowing economy, if you just spend 1 rupee, it will multiply into further, that means 3 rupees or 4 rupees or 5 rupees, because that is the inherent nature. That is what the economic survey is saying. And in order to substantiate his explanation, he has given some sort of research that happened throughout the country. They have given 3-4 examples. And I think some of the examples is from different research analysis that has clearly given in the economic survey that some poor people want to spend more and more, and also the bank intermediation cost will become low, and private savings increases through precautionary move to save increased pool of loanable funds, because the loanable funds will be high, because some people want to save more, and that save, because it is a pandemic and they try to save more, and once they save more, and that will become the higher funds for the private sector, so they can effectively utilize. So here the conclusion that I can draw from all this research is, the higher fiscal multiplier may happen during the economic slowdown instead of normal thing. So don't worry about that aspect also. That as or it may not be true, but from some research they are giving, that is the advice that the economic advisor is giving to the government, and we must also just try to looking into this aspect, and that must be debated in the economy whether it is true or not, but the evidence show that it is high. Okay, next there is another apprehension, like suppose if there is a growth, your debt will be sustainable. Suppose if suddenly your growth comes down in the next years, because when you are taking a loan for 10 years, then definitely your 10 years of growth rate must be very high compared to the interest rate which you are paying. And if suddenly growth has come down, what will happen? Does really your debt is so sustainable? That is the question. And for that, economic survey is giving an explanation, like even in the worst case scenario where the growth is anemic, over medium term it impacts on the debt suitably gets moderated, supported by monetary policy. Suppose somewhere something happened, like growth has come down, and then immediately your debt becomes sustainable or unsustainable. Here what the economic advisor is saying, even if you take the possibility of the next 10 years, if somewhere the growth is moderated, we can compensate it through a possible monetary policy. Possible monetary policy benefit. That means through the monetary policy we can change the effective rate in the economy. Effective rate in the economy, because the monetary supply will change the supply of money supply, and this money supply will change the value of the money, and that value of the money will definitely affect your interest rate, so that you can adjust the interest rate in such a manner to suit your growth objectives. That can also be possible, suppose if your growth rate is come down. So these are the 4 different apprehensions that were put, and economic survey tried to answer to those apprehensions, and ultimately he is suggesting first go for the counter cyclical policy. and that too counter cyclical policy will always possible through the framing of fiscal rules. This is another new thing that have introduced fiscal rule in the sense, and they have explained in case of some countries how these fiscal rules were really effective. Suppose the point is fiscal rule means, suppose you put a condition like my fiscal deficit should be 5%. Suppose this is a fiscal rule that you have put. Suppose even if your economy is performing beyond your capacity, you may end up with surplus, but you don't reach this figure or you don't reduce this figure. And suppose if our inflation targets are, let it be put like 4 plus or minus 2%. If targets, if you put these targets, what will happen is, if your economy is performing so well, you cannot really reach or you cannot really breach the targets. So you deliberately reduce your capacities to some extent so that you can avoid the extremities. Okay, even if you are performing well, but these conditions will make you to not to reach the boundaries, Suppose if you are performing in a worst case, but these target makes you that you must reach a certain level of growth. That means it again stops going much more worse. Again it will make you to higher stage. Okay, that means if you are, suppose if you are so worsening and your fiscal deficit may come beyond 5%, that means you can expect that it may go up to 7 or 8%. Then immediately what you must do? You must do some sort of measures, counter cyclical measures, in order to counter this cycle and you will go for the higher amount of growth. Suppose if it has become 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0, then you cannot say like, okay, I am reducing the deficit. No, you deliberately maintain 5% of the deficit and you will use that money somewhere and you will become the surplus in that aspect. So that means the fiscal rules are always necessary to go for the counter cyclical policies, and these counter cyclical policies are always necessary, like how I have explained you. How can you avoid the both extremities? And when you are going for this counter cyclical policy, the debt is a necessary evil, it is a necessary thing, and debt can be sustainable if you have the amount, if you have the higher amount of growth, or if you have that interest rate and growth rate differentiation. If you have a negative value, definitely that debt is sustainable. So the advice to the government is go for the debt because you have the growth perspectives. So this is the gist of the entire concept that is discussed in economic survey.